Good evening. Drinking some tea. I hope everybody had a wonderful day. I did. And my family, my kids, and I had an amazing time with our family, family by blood and family by spirit this evening. Uh, got together for my niece Naledi Koto's daughter, who's doing her college applications right now. So we had a nice little dinner and gathering and gave her a lot of good energy. And, you know, my brother's spirit was there. It was wonderful. Anyway, I'm home now. It's pretty late. And there's so much to talk about. And I've been writing a lot. And for whatever I've shared, there are 20 more things that I've written. But this is a subject that's been on my mind a lot and increasingly as the days and months and years have gone by. So this is nothing new to me, but I would like to share it because I'm sure that I'm not the only one having these thoughts, but I would like to hear somebody saying these thoughts, so I might as well record them and share them with you. And then maybe if I feel like it, go back and listen and say, oh, I'm listening to the thoughts I've had. Anyhow, I'm thinking a lot about shame and the role of shame in our lives. And I've come to the conclusion that shame is a tool to control us. It's a tool of control. And if there's enough shame, then literally a person can live in a prison in their minds. Um, and like, how does a person make another person feel shame? Well, by mockery, of course. Um, Mockery, ridicule. And my experience is these days, I've never witnessed so much shame in my life as, see, I'm talking. My dog is outside, and now that I'm talking, she wants my attention. So, well, anyway, she's out there with my son. She'll be fine. Um, Around the beginning of the lockdown, I've always been against and I have no shame about it. And people have tried me, and they've not mocked me and they've ridiculed me, but I think I'm pretty much immune from that. Immune, no pun intended, in this crazy time that we're living in. But at the time, I made this hashtag. I just used it a few times. That fear is a bioweapon, right? And one of the tools to induce that fear is shame, because maybe there's nothing worse as a human being than being shamed. Like if you're in a community of people and you think differently or you do something a little bit differently, then it just takes one person to point the finger and go, ha ha, what the hell is wrong with you? Oh, look at you, to completely shut you down. And I see a tremendous amount of that going on, especially from social media platforms. So bear with me here. I'm going to be all over the place. I know this is a subject that I want to talk about, but I haven't really prepared anything. So I'm just, letting it flow. Now, since the coronavirus lockdown, and especially in the last few weeks, I've seen some memes go around. They're usually, like a Venn diagram or a pie chart, or today I saw one that was an upside down triangle. This upside down triangle had tears, and this TIERS, so it had tears that were different colors. And the person who was sharing this I guess, graphic, wrote a very long letter talking about how, basically the tone was look at me, I'm superior, I'm a highly educated modern person, and I know what's real and what's not. And look at all these stupid people. There are these different, levels of conspiracy theorists, and the people at the bottom of the triangle, they believe in conspiracies that seem believable, but at the top are the most unbelievable. And oh my gosh, these people are insane, and I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole, and all of that. So it was very intellectual. Uh, the writing was very intellectual. This person was very kind of like scientific and what's the word? Sterile. Like if you can imagine going into a very sterile, modern sort of Jetsons environment where everything is wiped down nicely and it's shiny and there's a lot of chrome and all of that. That's the feeling. So it was very much devoid of, I guess, humanity, spirit, the messiness of being alive as a human being. I read this, I read the article or whatever you want to call it. I read the letter. And as I was reading it, I was paying attention to what was coming up in my, in my body and my emotions. And I was just feeling this, like, it brought up in me all of the times in my life where I felt really embarrassed for one reason or another. And I was like, oh man, this guy is really good. And I tried to read that graphic, but it was kind of hard to read because it was very small and the writing was small and whatnot. But it looked to me like it was an answer to what's going on in the world right now and what's going on in the news. And then there was another, I think it was like two circles like this. And in the middle, it was like maybe by now a month ago, one was going around and it caused quite a stir. And it was basically saying that hippies and um, hippies and religious people meet all of these white hippies and white Christians, mostly, who seem to have always been polar opposites of each other, or maybe even enemies. Now look, they're meeting in the middle because they are believing all of these new conspiracies, and they're basically white supremacists. And so it was like, and then somebody else shared an article saying they're hippie Nazis and this and that. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting because, and I've been following this for the past few years, this trend where if a person is white and Christian, and if they're more of a traditional Christian, then they're presumed to be a far right white supremacist. And I know there's a massive difference between being, a traditional Christian and a white supremacist, but it's like everything's kind of merging together. And if you're white, there's no place to go. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of propaganda going on in social media, and shame is the tool with the propaganda. I'll give you another example. Um, I've come to the conclusion, now this is me, I could be wrong, but this is how I see it. This is my experience of life. This is what I'm observing. In our society, somebody or somebodies is or are trying to divide us and see each other as enemies, like mortal enemies, like that. There is this conversation that's specific to Black people, and the conversation says, you're Black, you come from oppressed people, you are oppressed now, you will always be oppressed, and it doesn't matter what we do for you, you'll always be oppressed. And not only that, you should feel oppressed all the time. You should feel shame for what your ancestors endured. And then you should also feel like you're a victim. And if you ever get a chance to be on top, it's perfectly reasonable for you to feel drunk on that like temporary power. But for now, and we're going to make you feel that it's going to be forever, you're a very special class of people. You're a very sensitive class of people, right? So a few decades ago, there was this belief that, black people's skin had fewer, fewer nerves, or the nerves were less sensitive, right? All this like stupid racial pseudoscience. But today's racial pseudoscience is that black people are so sensitive and so delicate, and to us, a microaggression is like a physical assault on our lives. And we're supposed to feel that way because when we think of our ancestors, we are living their experience. When we think of the whippings they got and how they were killed and tortured, that we we're obligated to feel it bodily and to carry all of their pain with us. Now, I don't know, coming from an African perspective, um, our responsibility to our ancestors is to heal them by taking full advantage of the opportunities that we have right now. That's very healing for them. Our ancestors are watching us all the time. So it's very healing for them to see us take a ball and run with it. It's very healing for them to be able to do what they were not able to do because they're in our blood and they're in our DNA and they live through us. So this conversation that black people should always feel oppressed and feel like the world is against us not only is not good for us, it's not good for us to take that on. It's not good for our ancestors. It's not honoring them. Our ancestors were brilliant. They were resourceful. They were creative. They were inventive. They knew how to they knew how to spin gold from straw, really. So that's on that side. This is popular culture. I'm just looking at it. I'm talking about the role of shame in our lives and how it is this like massive tool. It's a massive force. It's really controlling what we think we can do and what we think we cannot do. So right now, society is saying, if you're white, you are racist. You've always been racist, always will be. There's nothing you can do about it because your ancestors were, you know, the scum of the earth, the most, evil, and they did. And some, like when you think of slavery, what percentage of white people are actually slave holders? Like what, 2% or something, 1%? But anyway, it's like this idea that you as a white person should carry the shame of your ancestors, and you should feel guilt. So black people, it's shame and victimhood and weakness and no way out. And for white people, we'll just ignore her. And for white people, it's shame and guilt. You're guilty, nothing you can do about it. So what you should do as a white person is tiptoe around black people like you're walking on eggshells, because you see, black people are a little bit, are kind of like, what do you call it? Like maybe all black people have borderline personality disorder or something like that, and you have to walk on eggshells, and then there are more and more rules for what you can and cannot say, and then if you say the wrong thing, you're showing your insensitivity, and you should know better in all this, right? But what's really interesting is, and this is just me, right? I would love for people to debate me on it and show me what you see and where I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, because I'm totally cool with being wrong about something and missing. But there's this like macabre dance. There's this strange dynamic that we have with each other, where it's like the pendulum has gone from one end to the other. So pendulum, maybe a couple of decades ago, Black people don't really feel pain, or maybe some places in the medical community, I see all of these articles like, oh yeah, Black people are not treated with the same amount of like compassion and care and sensitivity as white patients, because there is this deeply ingrained assumption that Black people don't don't feel pain, physical pain or emotional pain on the level that white people feel. And now it's gone to the other extreme where it's like we've been infantilized, right? In mainstream society. Now Black people are like the toddler or, the teenager who always needs to be rescued, who has to be tiptoed around because we're kind of like so fragile or mentally or emotionally unstable that everybody has to make concessions for Black people. And the closer you get to a cisgender white male, the more concessions you have to make. Now, I think that ultimately that's going to really hurt everybody, but I think ultimately really 10 times more hurt Black people. I don't know how many people are thinking about this, but a couple of days ago, I wrote a long post, um, my questions about Black Lives Matter and the word matter going from being of importance or being of worth to physical matter, like material, like commodity, as in something to be used, like commodity is cattle, a commodity is oil, a commodity is gold, right? Wheat. Um, and I have some questions about where are we going as Black people with Black Lives Matter, um, the movement that has billions and billions of dollars being pumped into it, and it's no longer this from the ground up grassroots movement. So anyway, back to shame. I'm trying to circle back around. Um, Whenever I see anybody using language, either in print or they're speaking it, singing it, whatever, if it's in the form of art, you know, red lights go off in my brain because, and I've said this before, I'm wondering what is being hidden. Anytime you've got one party shaming another party, this is a party that's shaming, and I'm shaming this party. There's something that they're hiding. This party that's doing the shaming is hiding something. And usually the something that they're hiding is really big. And usually that really big thing is something that everybody else can see. So I just want to put that out there. It's something to chew on. It's something to think about, meditate on, wonder about, just look at, just get a bird's eye view and look at the lay of the land and look at the power of shame to literally move people en masse to do certain things or to not do certain things. And I really believe that we are in World War III right now. Most people, most of us believe that war is guns and mortar and bombs and things like that, but there's biological warfare. There's a conversation around whether with this COVID-19, we're experiencing bio warfare right now. There's, of course, psychological warfare, and I think that shame is probably the most used and most powerful tool in psychological warfare. There is another part of biological warfare is just starving people out, like usually if you can read about these ancient wars or even the more modern wars, the aggressor will cut off the food supplies and cut off the routes. And they might even wait for 2 years, just wait and starve people out and then go in. And, with the swords and the arrows and the bows and guns and bombs and cannons or whatever. And I'm thinking about this, it's like mind, body, spirit. All right. So yeah, mind, body, spirit. So shame shame is the tool that works on our spirits and our minds. And just inviting people to think about it, meditate on it, watch who's shaming whom, and know that the people doing the shaming are hiding information. And if you want to, you can go seek that information, and seek and ye shall find. All right. Wishing everybody a good night.